PK here, off court with me and Ruben in a matter of seconds. But first, I want to tell you about Trusted American. Go to trustedamerican.com. See how Trusted American Mortgage can help you save on your monthly mortgage payment. Again, trustedamerican.com.
Hello and welcome in.
Please do not leave your luggage unattended on the station.
Welcome to the show.
Welcome to a President's Day edition of Off Court. I'm Brandon Krisztal. That's Ruben Villalobos, talking all things hoops with you. Coming off All-Star Weekend. It's always a fun weekend, but a weird transition on the sports calendar because you go from the Super Bowl to Daytona 500, NHL All-Star something, which this year is the Four Nations Cup, and NBA All-Star Weekend. And so how are you going to split your viewing time? They don't all necessarily all overlap, but the dunk contest went head-to-head with USA Canada hockey on Saturday night. Lots of college hoops going on. But Ruben, I'll ask you, how was your All-Star Weekend and how much did you pay attention to?
I got to be honest, I did not watch a single minute of All-Star. I mean, I watched maybe some highlights on YouTube, you know how they just display, but that's about it. I didn't really tune in. I did see a clip of someone winning $100,000.
Oh, that was actually
that was
cool.
really cool for that fan. And it was funny because like he banks it in, so it was like the bank was open for him, and so I think that was probably the highlight of All-Star was that fan winning $100,000. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, and so as you go through it, the conversation continues to be that All-Star is the weekend for the NBA has become stale, and they keep trying to rework the game. This year, they made 4 teams, all playing to 40. So you had the 3 teams of All-Stars. LeBron last minute decides to pull himself out. The reason that's kind of a crappy move, like we knew Giannis was hurt, so they added Trae Young.
Mhm.
Had LeBron told anyone earlier, they could have gotten a replacement. It wouldn't have meant LeBron wasn't going to be there for the weekend. It just would have meant that you could have had another player that was deserving.
I think it was Norman Powell that had the
he have,
next up, right?
Yeah, if it would have been Norman Powell, who was already there for the 3-point,
for
the 3-point contest, then you would have had him participate. But the game there still wasn't enough defense, and it doesn't really matter. It's hard when these guys are in the middle of a season at this point, when winning a championship matters so much, and they're making so much money that any added, not that $100,000 doesn't help or whatever, but when you're making 40, 50, 60 million dollars, $30 million, $100,000 isn't gonna change your life. Not that it can't change other people's lives, because that kid won $100,000. So getting guys excited about it is hard to do. And then the dunk contest, you've got a guy now 3 years in a row that's won it that barely has played in the league. He's mostly a G leaguer. He's made more money in the dunk contest than on the court. And the 3-point contest has gotten stale. The skills, all of it. It's hard to get people excited. Now, I also go back to when I was a kid, and I brought this point up with Nate on Off Field. When I was a kid, you couldn't see Michael Jordan except the one time a year he came to Dallas or Denver, and when they played them, a couple national games. It was mostly just playoffs. ESPN didn't have a package. TNT didn't have a package like that. You know, I'm a little older than you, but you couldn't see all these guys. Now you can see them all the time, every day, every highlight, constantly.
I did see something very interesting yesterday of just the action of Sunday's game. I guess there was only about 40 some plus minutes of actual basketball played, and everything else was like advertisements, concerts, ceremonies, musical, all this stuff. And I'm like, oh, no wonder people don't tune in, because there's not a whole lot of basketball going on.
Well, they're trying to put a show on, and I understand that. You're trying to entertain people for the 2 or 3 hour window. They also were opposite of the Saturday Night Live 50th anniversary. And I think that probably got some eyeballs. And then you have the hockey tournament going on as well. And so I think it's just hard to capture people's attention like you once did, because you didn't have 50 options. You didn't have Netflix. You were like, oh, this is the one time I'm going to see these guys get together. I think about baseball too, like especially before interleague play. You're like, oh, this is the only time you're going to see the AL stars if you're in an NL city, or vice versa. And so it's just the way we consume things has changed. So you have to ask yourself, is it successful? Because Mac McClung's dunk contest was entertaining. Even if he's going against three guys. The only reason you know him is because of the dunk contest. And unless you're a hardcore basketball fan, you don't know who Stephon Castle is. The other two guys, you really didn't know who they were. And Buzelis and Andre Jackson Jr. I don't know Andre Jackson Sr. Regardless, it wasn't that exciting. Now, we did see both Ja and Giannis say that they'd potentially think about being in it. LeBron, I don't think in year 23 or whatever is going to do it.
Yeah, like I said before, just get some stars in there. I think they'll be fine. And I mean, or maybe why don't you add stuff that will kind of implicate, you know how they do it in baseball where if the winner of the All-Star gets
they
home
stopped
court?
doing it.
Oh, they did?
They stopped doing it because
there has to be something where there's some sort of implication.
But it is just an entertainment product. So it's up to you to decide. Like I thought baseball got that wrong. Like if you win 110 games and the team from the other division, not division, sorry,
conference or
AL league, AL, NL, whatever, the other league wins 97, you shouldn't be the road team if you've won 110 games.
Yeah.
And so that's why I thought it was crap, but it is just a TV show. So we will go through some of the highlights that you missed. Tyler Hero, first-time All-Star, one of the keys to my fantasy team. Tyler Hero won the 3-point contest.
Oh, good for him.
One of the evolutions that I think they got, I don't know if they got it right or wrong, but they decided you get to pick your best spot as your money ball.
Oh, for your money ball?
Instead of having the money ball at the end. So if you're like, oh, my best shot's on the wing or corners or top, all five of those are your money ball. So those count too. So Tyler Hero wins. There were some all-stars in that. Cade Cunningham was in that. Dame Lillard was in that, among others. But
it's weird that these like singular events are more entertaining than the actual game itself. And so we almost wonder, like, should there be more singular type, like the one-on-one contest? It's been on the table for like years now, and it seems like Adam Silver's just like, yeah.
But how hard are people going to play in that, or even if you knock in a 3 on?
But then again, it's like it's entertainment. It's not like it's meant to be. But also, maybe one-on-ones can get a little bit, a little entertaining and a little more.
Well, guys will probably get a little more pissed off and play a little harder.
And also, it gives them an opportunity to kind of show off a little bit, maybe show off some moves.
And you could set it up as brackets. Yeah. Although where it gets tricky is, I'm not saying Steph can't beat Giannis one-on-one, but that would be a wild thing to watch. I'd love to see it.
It'd be cool if they incorporated like other sports, like how fast can an NBA player throw a baseball, or how accurate can you throw a football, or something like that. We talked about. Like, that'd be kind of cool.
At the Pro Bowl, put in a dunk contest for football.
Yeah.
So you had that. Then you had Mac McClung jump over Ikea as his first dunk in the dunk contest. And dunk contest is always,
did he nail it in the first time?
He nailed it.
Or did it take him a couple of tries?
The first time he jumped over it and didn't even grab the ball, maybe, but he ends up grabbing the ball and reverse dunking. And you can see there on the screen
a homage to Blake Griffin.
Yeah,
right?
kind of. Except Blake Griffin did it the shorter way. This was a little more diagonal.
Oh, okay.
And he's also 6'2", and Blake Griffin's 6'10".
Yeah.
But
it was a cool dunk because he did catch. He catches
that was
it,
cool.
Like,
and then they had a dunk coach that basically was working with everybody. So he was the guy throwing it off the board. But here's I think we also have a shot of the dunk coach is holding a ball. So Mac McClung grabs the ball that his
I did see that one
teammate's holding, dunks it with his right, and then dunks the other one with his left, going
a
down.
Double dunk.
And then the final dunk was
he got up pretty high on that one.
He put up.
He's like looking at the rim.
Evan Mobley on a platform to make him 7 feet. Had him hold the ball, jumped over Evan Mobley, pumped and hit the ball on the rim, and then dunked it. And so he ended up winning his third dunk contest. He's certainly going to be a footnote in history. I mean, I guess he can try again next year, but like no one's ever won 3 in a row. I think Jordan won some back-to-back. I think Dominique might have won them back-to-back. Dwight Howard. But it was entertaining at the time. Like, will Mac McClung do this? It's just that it's Mac McClung, and you're like, he's a dunking expert, not a basketball star.
Yeah.
The easiest way to fix it, you say stars, just mandate that. And I don't know exactly how you do it, but all the dunk contests and all the 3-point contests have to be all stars.
Mm-hmm.
They're trying to find the best dunker in the league,
best
shooter in the league, and sometimes those players aren't all stars.
I liked your idea of the last time we talked about it, of like making it so that they're charities of choice. Get that? I like that idea a little as well, because they had some of that going on in previous formats for the actual All-Star game itself. Remember that? It was like whoever wins the quarter or something like that.
Yeah. Money was going to charity. And Feed America and all this stuff.
I mean, stuff like that would get me motivated, and I'm sure fighting for something for a cause that you believe in. I think that tends to get the competitive nature out of people, and why not? But you got to keep trying different things, and I like the fact that Adam Silver's trying different things. It just sucks that it didn't quite work out. For the 14 format, if it would have been to maybe the first to 60, so we would have gotten a little bit more
basketball.
Action. Yeah, a little bit more of that.
You get the 40 quick with no defense because they're just shooting threes.
Absolutely, yeah. And so the last game was like the Shaq versus Chuck. That one ended up super quick
because
it was
11-0 right out of the gate.
Yeah, and it was like you almost want to give a little. Maybe for the last one, if you decide to keep the same format, for the last one, make it the first one to 80 or something like that.
Yeah, that one goes longer.
The way it goes a little bit longer, and it feels a little more special. So it just felt a little short.
The biggest controversy of the weekend came courtesy of the Spurs and Victor Wembanyama and CP3 in the skills challenge, where you have to throw a ball through a ring, shoot a couple of threes, bounce pass, and then lay it in or dunk it.
They get disqualified, didn't they?
They got disqualified, not because they didn't make the three or one way or another. The biggest thing is the pass. But if you hit the pass, like you have to hit the pass, you don't have to make the shots. You just have to take 3 threes.
Oh.
And it's a time element, but you're not penalized if it doesn't go in.
Oh, interesting.
So guys just shoot them. And I don't know if there's a bonus or whatever. And I guess but they basically got to the rack and just threw like this.
I did see.
So they didn't even
look a little silly.
Yeah. And it did look silly, but it's like they were just taking advantage of what the rules that were set before them.
Yeah.
So this is CP3 and Wemby as it's being explained to them, I think, that they're being disqualified.
They're like, what?
Because they're looking back at it and they had the fastest time by a mile. But they end up DQ'd. And so I'm not even sure who ended up winning. But it was just funny, the idea that they're just gaming a system that was set up a certain way.
That's such a Chris Paul thing to do.
Yeah. Well, and some people think it's Chris Paul. Some people think it was Wemby, because I saw where Draymond said Wemby went up to like 6 or 7 people before it and was like double checking the rules. And so Wemby might just be trying to play chess while everybody else is playing checkers.
Hey, I kind of like that.
I don't mind
that. Yeah, I don't mind it. I mean, I like the competitive, and that's what we're missing. Competitive
make the rule,
spirit.
You have to make 3 threes or make a 3 of the, shoot till you make a 3.
I like that. I like when players are competitive. That's why, like, whenever Kobe was in the All-Star game, like, players tend to kind of follow his suit a little bit, because he was like, nah, if I'm in this, I'm gonna play some defense, and I'm gonna show you off while I'm on offense. I'm gonna juke you. I'm gonna show you some of my great moves, and like, that's what's missing right now, is like that competitive spirit, and also just showcasing your skills. And it's not just about like dunking and making like a 3 in like a random transition point. Just, we want to see more competitive spirit. And Stephen A actually said this earlier before the All-Stars, like there's certain players that are complaining about the format, but it's like, it's kind of up to you to make it fun. It's not up to the commissioner to create all these different things to make it fun for you. It's like, no, you're the product. It sounds weird, like you're the product, you're the one who's out there. It's up to you to make it entertaining. It's not up for anybody else but you.
Well, and getting back to the game, more games, but Steph Curry ends up your MVP. He has 12 points.
He was ridiculous
in the final game where he was on Team Shaq, the OGs.
He's probably like his 4th, 5th All-Star MVP, because he's won
several
now.
His second.
Oh, was his second?
I think it's just his second Kobe Bryant All-Star MVP.
He should have had more, because it seems like every All-Star year he's just like the most fun one out there.
Well, he does seem to have fun, but he did make a shot from half court, and I think that helped.
Yeah, he makes those like crazy half-court shots and whatnot. Like, at least he's attempting fun stuff out there, and everyone was just kind of like lollygagging. Like, I'll just take a random
I think
3.
had a line on it, had the international players won, but and Joker was trying to throw some crazy passes. He had a couple good passes, but one where he thought he was going to try to catch it and sling it over his head, but the ball went out of bounds.
Yeah.
And as Joker often says, that game is not for him.
It's definitely not.
It clearly isn't, versus someone like Steph Curry, who's happy shooting from half court. So Steph wins your MVP, the Kobe Bryant MVP award, as it's been named, because Kobe won it obviously a handful of times as well.
That's a cool looking trophy.
Yeah. The trophies have always been kind of cool. They do a good job with that in the NBA. And so that team wins. So congrats to Shaq and the OGs. But maybe the most consequential thing from the weekend is that we find out who the Hall of Fame finalists are. And we need to clarify, the Naismith Basketball Hall of Fame in Springfield, Mass. isn't the NBA Hall of Fame. It is the Basketball Hall of Fame. So there's a number of female players that have been in it for a long time. There's college guys that had great college careers and okay pro careers, like Christian Laettner comes to mind. There's a bunch of coaches. Bill Self, who's still coaching, is in the Hall of Fame. John Calipari, who's still coaching. Mark Few, who is still coaching, is a nominee this year, the finalist. Bill Donovan, who won 2 titles at Florida as coach of the Bulls right now, he's still coaching. So they just decide when to put people up.
But that they also celebrate basically the entirety of their careers from like high school, college, and then up into
now,
the
if you're a high school
right?
American,
it's like the overall thing.
Yes, it is not what you did in the NBA. Because, like I said, I mean, Bill Self's in there. He's never coached or played in the NBA, and so there's 17 names, but some of the highlights, and this is courtesy of the Hall of Fame's tweet. Like, these are the names they featured when they put this up. But Carmelo, and this is just alphabetical of some of the bigger names of the 17, but Carmelo Anthony, Mickey Arison, who owns the Heat, is a finalist. Sue Bird, great player. Lisa Bluter, great coach. Obviously, all these people great. Billy Donovan, who just mentioned, Mark Few, Sylvia Foles, Mark Gasol, Dwight Howard, Maya Moore, who was awesome at Connecticut and awesome in the WNBA, and then Amari Stoudemire, who had a really good NBA career, didn't even play in college. But Carmelo, of course, won a championship at Syracuse. I believe has won 3 or 4 gold medals. I think he's won 4.
As a freshman, he got that title, didn't he?
Yeah, he was a
one and
most
done,
outstanding
right?
player. Yeah, beat my Kansas Jayhawks, scored 33 in the championship game, and was great in that. Carmelo feels like the most obvious. Dwight Howard, who I think some people even consider for that all NBA, the all 75 team. I feel like he'll get in. They tend to be rubber stamped. It's a 75%.
I mean, that's a pretty good list there. I mean,
that is a good list. There's also a couple more. Danny Crawford, the longtime ref, who you remember, bald guy, yelled a lot. Buck Williams, who was, I think, the first pick in the draft back in the day, played with the Nets and was on those Blazers teams with Clyde Drexler and Terry Porter that went to the finals and lost to the Bulls. But Buck Williams, multi-time All-Star. So there's 17 names. They're not going to, all 17 won't make it, but the voters, which is made up of, I think, actual Hall of Famers and some owners and media types, you have to get 75% of the vote.
Gotcha.
They also have done a thing. So the reason why Carmelo and Dwight Howard were up there is because Jerry Colangelo, who's involved with the Hall of Fame, thought that it made more sense to have guys that are a little more recent coming off the court, or girls, so that you can remember. Like Sue Bird just retired just last year or two, and Maya Moore, same thing. They're a little fresher in people's minds.
Yeah,
that's not necessarily how Halls of Fame work. And they make up their own rules. Like they say it's 5 years or 5 years for this. Or it's their own arbitrary rules.
Yeah.
And so Carmelo and Dwight Howard both played in 2022, but they are top of mind, and they'll do the ceremony in the fall right before teams open camp.
And everyone on that list, as far as just players, like they did had great careers, and as much like
you don't end up a finalist because you were just okay.
Yeah. I mean, they're all fantastic. Mostly players. But no, I mean, congratulations to Carmelo. Hopefully he gets in, and I think at some point he will get in. Do you think he'll end up getting into the NBA Hall of Fame? I think he will.
Well, but they don't even have an NBA Hall of Fame. They have a college basketball Hall of Fame. Like the NBA Hall of Fame hasn't been made yet.
Oh, okay.
But Carmelo,
NBA, get on it.
Well, I don't know. But all-time leading scorers. I mean, where does Carmelo rank? He's in the top 10, I believe. With LeBron being at the top, Carmelo's 10th. Yeah. If you scored the 10th most points in the history of the NBA. And James Harden's probably going to catch him in the next couple of years. But if you scored the 10th most points, you're probably going to be in the Hall of Fame. Yeah, there's a chance James Harden even catches him this year.
I got no more beef with Carmelo. You know what I mean? Like as a Nuggets fan, like it's all been said and done. It's all kind of over. I just don't like it whenever he says like, oh, the Nuggets should retire my number as Carmelo, and we're all like, nope, sorry. I'm like, that's the only time I'm ever against Carmelo.
I think you could argue you could retire Carmelo's jersey essentially and put a 15 in the rafters, because you're obviously going to do it with Joker as well.
Yeah,
and they didn't retire his number, and maybe after Joker, then he's obviously going to likely be retired. Again, these are their own arbitrary rules.
Yeah.
So, like, the Broncos haven't retired any numbers other than 7, 17, and 44, but they also have not given 24 to anybody. They've not given 58. And I've actually talked to people at the Broncos about this, that first ballot Hall of Famers like Champ Bailey, like Von Miller their numbers should be retired. But like Steve Atwater, who should have been a first ballot Hall of Famer, Terrell Davis, certainly lots of people have worn 30. Philip Lindsay, David Bruton, lots of people wear 27. Damari Mathis wears that now, I believe. So if you're a first ballot, though, because some of these teams, like the Bears have 22, and I'm going football, but some teams they have a lot. The Nuggets have retired David Thompson's number, and is that it? Kiki's 55 maybe is up there. Alex English, number 2.
Alex English, yeah.
Yeah, there's not that many up there.
Yeah.
But you could put 15 up there. You're not going to make Joker change his number, and then you just put another 15. Put 15 Anthony if you think he's worthy. And I
think it would look cool, having 2 15s up there.
Is it worthy? Because is Mutombo's up there?
I believe he's up there on the Raptors. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I don't have a problem with it.
Yeah.
But they're not going to make.
But I mean,
that was on them.
But I mean, 15 is Jokic's number now.
Sure,
and he's once he retires, I think it's going to be like maybe like a smaller jersey 15, and then like a really big 15 for Jokic.
If they put it up there, they'll put it up there, and they'll put. Now they might do a different color. They might do like that light blue. Yeah, and then Jokers will be a different.
But I think we all know like who 15 belongs.
No,
to
it'll say their names.
Yeah, of course.
So,
I'm just saying, like in general, just
when you think of the Nuggets,
Jokers.
You think of 15. You think of Joker. Yeah, and he's going to go down as one of the 10 best players of all time.
The greatest Nugget of all time.
Yeah, and certainly the greatest Nugget. It's just a question of, does he get that other title? And so that's a conversation worth having, because this actually happened on Twitter. I think Vic or somebody tweeted about the MVPs. And so I got into it, and then one of our Twitter followers was like, oh, I don't want him to win another MVP because then he'll be more motivated to win a championship. The MVP does not motivate Joker. It motivates fans. Joker goes out to play the best basketball game he can every night. Yeah. He is as motivated to win a championship as he's always been.
And he talked about it in the All-Star, during the All-Star. He's like, what is like, what was he asked? I think he was just asked like, what is the, goal moving forward after the All-Star break? And he's like, to win a championship. Yeah. And I think that should be the ultimate goal. And you love to hear that from like your superstar. Like, no, this is the goal. This is what we want to do. And let's go for it. And you love to hear that. You love to hear it from your star, from your best player. And just him talking about it kind of gives me chills. I'm like, all right, let's go. It's almost like it's a good little it's almost like you're warning the NBA. Like, no, I'm gonna take it serious from here on out. So
well, they've won 8 in a row. They've won 8 in a row.
Yeah.
You're gonna get the Hornets in here on Thursday. Do we know if LaMelo Ball's even back yet? I don't know if he is.
I haven't heard anything.
So you may not have LaMelo Ball. Now look, the Hornets played him tough in Charlotte at the end of that road trip. Nuggets had to dig deep to pull that one out. But so you're gonna get the Hornets, and then you get Luka, and we think LeBron on Saturday.
Crazy.
That's gonna be, and we know how many Lakers fans there are here in town, for better or worse. Kobe fans, like the one on the other side of the glass, and our guy Jet. But it's gonna be a fun scene Saturday night down there. And so I think that the Nuggets have a chance, because that game, is it Saturday night? Did that game get moved to ABC? Or is it an ABC ESPN game? Because now their window opens up, and we've seen it last couple of weeks with when the Nuggets played the T-Wolves as they got into the NFL playoffs. That allows the NBA. There's no rule against it, but with college football,
it most likely is probably going to be on ABC.
But let me double check that real quick. So the whole world's going to be watching, and they're going to have the Lakers 6:30 game, on ABC. So earlier start time. I think that'll get them to potentially 10 in a row. And we know that the math just isn't on their side to make up the 8 games they need or 9 games they need to catch OKC.
Yeah, I don't really care about catching them. And I don't think the Nuggets should even worry about that. Or
the only reason it would matter is because that will affect some people's MVP votes. At the same time, the people on TV that are loud about the MVP aren't necessarily the same ones voting. And the ones that vote, there's a lot of writers. They can look at both. And I understand there's voter fatigue, but realize how great of a season Joker's having. And the fact that Jalen Williams, who's an all-star, is paired with SGA, and the idea that Joker has less to work with because he doesn't have another all-star.
Yeah. I mean, it's just a little frustrating, but it's also I see the other side of it. Like, SGA has been a great player all year, and I think earlier on in the season, because of the struggles of the Nuggets, that really catapulted SGA to kind of be where he's at right now. And to be fair, SGA has played without Chet most of the year. His team has had some injuries on the on the front court.
Yeah, Hartenstein's
been injured
lineup,
in and out. But I still feel like the Thunder have a much deeper roster, a more connected roster, and they've had definitely less injuries than Nuggets. Like, I think Nuggets have had more consistent injuries, but the Thunder have had like time to adjust to not having Chet, mostly because they played without him most of last year, and so they kind of know how to play without him. But I mean, SGA has had a great season. I just don't think it's been at the level that Nikola Jokic has had, and to not give, whether he wins it or not, like you said, it's more of like a fan type award where fans are like clamoring about it. I would much rather have that Nikola Jokic get Finals MVP, which is the one that really matters.
Yeah, and again, it's not either or.
Yeah, if he gets both of them, man, that'll be fantastic. But great year.
He has a chance, and this isn't apples to apples, but a fourth MVP. Now, mind you, 4 and 5 years is pretty crazy, but it puts him in an even more rarefied class. But it also, if he never wins another championship, kind of puts him in that Aaron Rodgers world where it's like, oh, this guy was a great player, but his teams couldn't win. And we understand the circumstances around it with when Jamal got hurt, when MPJ got hurt, and how things may play out if they don't win again. But another title puts him in Olajuwon's category or above it because he has more MVPs. So the second title matters, and then a third title puts him past Larry Bird. So it's he's not catching LeBron and he might catch him in titles, I guess, but not catching LeBron and Jordan at GOAT debate. But because of when Bill Russell played and he had 5 or 6 Hall of Famers, I mean, their sixth man was a Hall of Famer and John Havlicek, but you had a bunch of Hall of Famers on those teams. And Wilt, kind of that legend of Wilt, he does have a chance to go down as the best center if he were to win another MVP. I'm not saying he needs that because Kareem did win 6 and more titles. Now, Kareem also won 6, but Kareem with the Lakers, those 5 Lakers championships that he won, had Magic and James Worthy, also Hall of Famers. I think Michael Cooper and Byron Scott are like borderline, especially Coop for that defense. AC Green was a hell of a player. Kurt Rambis, like they had really, really good teams. And I know it's easy to kind of glorify those stars of yesteryear, but just having Magic.
Yeah.
Like Jamal's a great player, especially when he's dialed in and healthy. No one's confusing Jamal Murray with Magic Johnson. And Joker, if you want to put him with Kareem had Oscar Robertson in Milwaukee. And then the 5 in LA, he had Magic Johnson.
Yeah.
And James Worthy for 3 of them.
Well, now that I guess I got to ask you, like, now that All-Star's over, now it's crunch time for the Nuggets.
Yeah, 27 games. I feel like a 27-game sprint.
Where do you think where do you think they've excelled? But also, where do you think they need to improve from here on out? Like,
I think consistent defense. And you heard those guys talk about it. You and I were at their last home game before the break, and you could hear that we just needed to get better defensively and just buy in. It's not, to me, it's less about defensive communication and more just about effort. Like they know where they need to be and they need to play that way. They need to be healthy, and you can't manage. I mean, you can manage guys that are nagging and get them right. But as you look at their schedule, and we don't necessarily need to go through all 27 games, but they've got a few more in the month, Charlotte and LA at home. Yeah. Then they hit the road for a handful. I'm going to be at the game Monday in Indianapolis, and they got back-to-back. They get a day off, and they go Milwaukee, Detroit, easy trip right across Lake Michigan.
I feel like there's still going to be some frustrating road losses.
But they finish in Boston next Sunday, a week from 2 Sundays, I guess, March 2nd.
Yeah. I mean, there's going to be frustrating losses.
They did win in Boston last year, by the way.
So, if you're a Nuggets fan, don't get too caught up in it.
Well, a week later, 2 games at OKC. Like, you could make up some ground there.
Yeah.
You've still got another 2 with the Lakers, 1 here, 1 there in March. You get Houston, and you get, I think you have to jump to April, but you're going to get to see the Warriors with Jimmy Butler now. You're going to see Phoenix again, rework Sacramento, and then Minnesota's always going to play you tough. San Antonio, Golden State, among others. Yeah, Memphis and Houston to close it out. So 2 more with the Rockets, 1 more with the Grizz.
Some tough games coming up, and so it's gonna.
What do you want to see them go if there's 27 games?
I feel like they're on pace for like 55 and below. I don't think they'll get to 57. I don't think they'll get anywhere.
I think you'd like to see them at like 17
Yeah.
17 and
Because
10.
there's going to be some road losses that are going to be some tough losses, and they'll probably either keep you at number 2 or they'll drop you down to 4. If you finish top 4, I think the Nuggets will be fine. It's just get healthy. That has been the biggest thing. Just stay healthy, be fresh, be ready. But also, if the Nuggets keep playing the way they've been playing, giving Jokic the fourth quarter off, I think Jokic is going to be very well rested, very ready to go for the playoffs. But again, I feel like the team is still kind of growing a little bit, especially for the young guys. You have to play the young guys. So yeah, I think there's just going to be some road losses that are going to be a little frustrating. But to me, I don't care as long as you use these last 27 games to remain healthy and then just work on your own scheme and just get better defensively, because that's the biggest issue. Just buy in, like you said, and they'll be all right.
What's going to be interesting to see is how they manage these games, because we saw last year where Michael Malone said health is the most important thing, and his bench was shorter, so he knew that going in, and it ultimately still ended up costing him. But they were in position to battle for home court. Had they have just held on to beat the Spurs on that Friday night game before they went to Memphis and beat the Grizz, then they would have been the 1 seed. I think you just want to avoid OKC till you have to play them. And I don't think, as much as having a game 7 at home matters, it just seems unrealistic at this point that you're going to make up 9 games or 8.5 games. They're a half game behind Memphis. So it's almost less about battling with Memphis as opposed to just making sure that you're 2 or 3.
Yeah.
So you want to make sure that the Rockets, like those games matter more. You want to make sure the Rockets are behind you and the one with the Grizz, but you want those guys battling for the 3rd spot if you can help it.
Yeah.
But even if you're the 3 seed, you just don't want to play OKC until you have to.
Yeah.
And you know you're going to have to go there for a game 7, and that's fine. Maybe it doesn't even get to 7 games because you steal one there in game 1 or 2. You've been there before, and they haven't really. And so I guess they were in the Western Conference Finals last year. But I think that you're really angling for 2 and 3, and so it's going to be interesting to see how Malone handles players, not minutes, but games off with nagging injuries to make sure you have that.
Yeah, and also with players coming back, how are they going to, come back?
Yeah,
and,
how do they fit into the team?
Yeah, because they have to refit again into the team. Russell Westbrook is going to have one a reiteration of him again and having to fit him in again, because it took him a little while to get kind of used to playing with Nikola Jokic, and probably he's going to have to go back to the bench. So now he's going to have to figure out how do I help the team, in this bench unit with my re-trusted role again. So that's going to be a bit of a learning curve. So again, there's going to be some losses, and you're going to be like, oh, what is happening with this team? So Nuggets fans, don't get crazy. Don't start being like, oh, we should have done something to trade or something like that, because it's just not worth it right now. And I think the team is they're in the right trajectory. It's just a matter of like, can you stay healthy? Can you just maintain this momentum that you've carried over with the 8-game win streak? Even if you have some losses, just maintain that rhythm offensively. And if you're a little bit more intense on your defensive end, especially in the fourth quarter, boy, this team can bring up those clutch minutes, because it seems like the Nuggets were not very good earlier on in those clutch minutes. Hence the 11 and 10 that they had record earlier in the year. But if you just get a little bit better in those clutch minutes, boy, this Nuggets team can really end up in solidifying that 2nd seed. But also, you might just end up getting another 55+ win season if you just kind of do things right. But if those young guys can stay, engaged and also buy into the defensive scheme that Michael Malone has implemented, the Nuggets are going to be just fine. And I'm fine with 2 and 3.
Yeah, and that's really what it comes down to is that defensive effort every night. But that's where you talk about the young guys buying in. I don't think there's a concern about them buying in. I think it's about him trusting them to give them real minutes.
Yeah, it's a level of focus that you need to maintain.
Absolutely, but you're going to get, in theory, everybody back healthy, and then mixing and matching, and opponents matter in the playoff matchups. But you can't go 8 deep. You're going to have to play 9 to 10 guys each series, and I think that they have that, and it'll still be on Malone to figure out exactly how to mix and match. But with the Russell Westbrook thing specifically, as you and I talked about last week, I think it's going to make sense to try to maximize as many minutes of Russ with Joker, and maybe that's when you're using Zeke a little more. Is earlier on with that 2nd unit, if that makes sense. That the second Russ comes in, Zeke comes in too. And you're sitting AG then. so that then AG and Jamal can be out there with Russ.
Yep.
And Zeke sitting and maybe DJ's in. And I think that's been the biggest benefit of these injuries, and asked Michael Malone about it last week, is that he said those guys are gaining confidence, but I think we'll get to talk to them this week at practice before they play. I presume they'll practice Wednesday. Haven't double checked that, but it's usually how it goes. I did see somebody tweet a picture at the Cancun airport with Michael Malone. So he did go to the Gulf of America as he said he was going to do.
Good for him.
Or Gulf of Mexico, or Gulf of whatever you want to call it. But the Gulf of the Nuggets.
Yeah.
Either way, they'll
Gulf of
practice.
Malone.
But I'm going to ask him, because he talked about their confidence. How much has it improved his confidence in them in big spots? And they're going to have some big games. Without even looking at it, there's no way that these next couple Saturday, Sunday games aren't all on ABC. But the Celtics game will certainly almost definitely be an ABC game, as will the Thunder a week later. And so I think that all of those big spots will be good opportunities for those guys that are still having to play, because like Peyton Watson, I don't think will be healthy yet.
Yeah.
And where is AG? Where is MPJ? Where is Russ and those? So you're going to have to rely on some of these guys in really big moments against big teams. The Lakers are less about them being a great team and more about it's Luka and LeBron on Saturday night.
Yeah, the only player I'm kind of looking forward to see how he handles the big spot is Julian Strawther, because he hasn't played a ton of big minutes in like big nationally televised games, and some of the times that he's had to start, he's been a little timid and stuff like that. So that's the only player I'm seeing. How does he handle it? Because he might have some big minutes moving forward. I think he's earned it. So we'll see how he handles that type of pressure. He's like the one player I'm like, you could be the either a great X factor or a bad X factor, depending on how confident you are in those big minutes. So we'll see how he does, because I'm not worried about Christian Brown. He seems to thrive in high pressure situations. Obviously everyone else in the starting five, I'm not too worried about him, but it's just him. Peyton Watson tends to play a little out of control sometimes, but at least he gives you like great defensive effort.
Great effort.
And I don't think he shines away from the pressure either. It's just Julian that I'm worried about. And I think he'll be all right.
And Julian seems to have no problem. Look, it's a guy that's, been taking and making big shots his whole career, and saw it actually here when he was with Gonzaga, knocking down a huge shot from the 2 feet behind the line, 3 feet behind the line to win a game for the Zags a couple of years ago when the tournament was here. And so I think that this will be a great opportunity, like you said, for all these guys to show Malone that they can handle these high pressure situations. I want to do one more thing before we get out of here, but also want to remind you, check out Trusted American Mortgage at trustedamerican.com. They will help you save money on your mortgage payment, and they will even help you cover closing costs, rather the cost of your appraisal, which is about a $650 value. And if you end up refinancing with them, you'll get to skip the first couple of months of your mortgage payment. We know people are still recovering from all the holiday expenditures, starting to plan ahead for not only spring break, but summer break. So why not save a little money? Go to trustedamerican.com. Trustedamerican.com, help you save some money today. So the final thing, and this was what made the All-Star game special. And admittedly, after I watched the start of the All-Star game and all the stuff leading up to it, I watched a lot more of the SNL 50th with my wife and had the game on my iPad.
Yeah.
And so just keeping an eye on it, and knew I'd be able to go back. But when Kevin Hart, who was a big part of what they were doing, decided to come out and honor the TNT crew, because this is the last time TNT will host the All-Star game on TV for the foreseeable future.
Yeah.
And so it was really cool that they honored Ernie and Charles and Kenny and Shaq. And so I thought it was cool that Kevin Hart, and it was to what you said, as they were going team to team and game to game, it was a little disjointed, but that they took the time in front of, 18, 20,000 fans there in San Fran. I thought it was really cool to bring those guys on, and Kevin Hart gave them a few gifts, and then they all each spoke. Ernie spoke first, Shaq spoke, then Kenny, and then Chuck finished it off, and they thanked the fans, because the fans obviously love that show. The good news that we found out was that Shaq, they seem to all have production companies. Shaq, Chuck, and Kenny all have their own production company. Yeah. But Shaq hadn't signed a deal. He now signed a new $15 million deal where they're still under the Turner umbrella. And I don't know if that means Shaq's going to do more March Madness because of that partnership with CBS and Paramount, but they are going to do their show from the Atlanta studios with the same crew once a week. And I don't know if it's exactly once a week, but with ESPN. ESPN is basically going to license their show. So they're not going away totally. Just it won't be on TNT. So you won't see All-Star Weekend on TNT. You'll probably see it in a combination of NBC Peacock, which I think spent the most money. You'll see, and it used to be on NBC back in the day because I remember Bob Costas hosting it. But it's been on TNT forever now. But you'll see Amazon. I'm not sure if Netflix is part of the, but ESPN, ABC.
Yeah.
So they will all be the main rights holders, but this show will at least thankfully still exist in.
They are a funny crew.
They're the gold standard.
They are funny
for a studio show. That's why they've won the most Emmys. And we know that Charles Barkley's really the straw that stirs the drink there for as great as Shaq is, as great as Ernie and Kenny are. And they all play their roles perfectly. It was just really, really nice that the NBA with Turner, but with Kevin Hart there, taking the hosting duties from EJ, honored those guys.
Bring up the picture again of Kevin Hart and
Kevin Hart's 5'4", Kenny's 6'3".
Whoever that photographer is did a great job of making Kevin Hart look taller than what he actually is.
They stood side by side.
It looks like Kevin Hart was photoshopped in this because it just looks a little out of place.
But I mean, you can still tell like Kenny's.
But look at the framing. Look at the little
taller.
V frame that is. That photographer did a good job of.
Well, the funnier thing is that Chuck and Kenny are only about an inch apart.
Yeah.
Is it Charles? They list him at 6'6", but he's more like 6'4.5", and Kenny's 6'3".
Kevin Hart's hilarious. I do like Kevin Hart. He's
great. Dude. And he was great yesterday on that stuff. So hope you enjoyed All-Star Weekend. We're not going to get back into, our basketball flow of things with our post-game shows. Liv will be back from her vacation. If you're following her on social media, I don't know if she saw Michael Malone, but she also was down in the Gulf of America as well, down in Mexico. And I was jealous of all of them because I was like, oh, I'd love to be on a beach right now. But
that was nice.
Hopefully sometime in our futures. But we will be back with another off-court show on Thursday. Post-game shows Thursday, Saturday. We are going full court press now.
Yeah, we'll be covering the Hornets game here on Thursday. We'll also be covering the Lakers game. It's going to be a huge one. So, hey, this is crunch time for the Nuggets, and we'll have you covered here at Guerilla Sports, and we can't wait to bring you all the coverage and news, analysis, and everything like that. So
stay locked in.
Thanks
to our guy Jet running the show today. Thank you for watching. He's Ruben. I'm BK. We will catch you next time on Off Court.